Alright guys, getting right into today's video, I just went ahead and displayed everything that we're going to need for today's project right on the table, but don't you worry, I'm not going to use the table to do any of this because I don't want to ruin the table. I'm just here to present everything to you and to show you what we will need. So make note, nothing's in any specific order. We will get into the DIY a little bit later, just in a second, but let me show you what we need. So obviously paper mache, you're going to need paper. I have printer's paper just because I want it to be as white as possible. If you use notebook paper or newspaper, it will come out to be a little bit more gray, which is also beautiful, but I wanted just like kind of a blank canvas. So that's what I have. Scissors on top of there because I don't have a shredder, so I will have to cut everything myself. Measuring spoons, we have measuring cups, we have a hand mixer, flour, baby oil, glue, joint compound, paint of choice, a little paintbrush to stipple everything on, random bowls, so the bowls are to help with the molding of the bowls that we're going to create with the paper mache, some saran wrap, and then I have a random tea kettle. Not random because I'm actually going to be boiling some water and that's going to help break down the paper, but you can use a pot or anything else to boil your water. So yeah, these are all of the ingredients that we're going to need for this project, and let's go ahead and get right into it. So I went ahead and added just one more pot to boil just because I don't think that the tea kettle is going to be enough, and I just rather have a lot more than I need than not enough when I need it, you know what I mean? So that's what we have going right now. All right, and now to cut up some paper, which I'm not sure how much I'm actually going to use, but we're gonna cut up enough to fit into this bowl. So eventually the goal is to have 2.5 cups of broken down paper once everything is like completely done. So not necessarily 2.5 cups of just shredded paper, but I need 2.5 cups of paper mache. So that's the goal. Not sure how much paper that's gonna take, but we will, I guess, touch base a little bit later. I went ahead and cut an entire bowl of paper. The paper was all the way to the top. Once I poured it in the water, obviously it condensed. So this is what it's looking like. As you can see, it's starting to crumble up already. It's only been maybe 15-20 minutes. So I'm thinking this process won't take too long. So maybe about an hour or two, I can check up on it and then try mixing it. If anything, I can always pour out this water, add some more hot water, and just keep the cycle going. But I think this is going to be plenty of paper. As you can see, I think I have about 2 cups, maybe 2.5 cups, just what I needed for my project, which I actually ended up putting some more paper in this pot that was boiling. So that's starting to break up too. I didn't really cut up this one as small as I did the other one, so we shall see. This might take a little bit longer to kind of just break down, but it's looking good so far. It's been an hour and a half and I've transported the paper into this pot that I used for Thanksgiving, and then I just have my hand mixer. I'm just mixing everything up at a low speed just to kind of break as much as I can up. There are still large pieces, as you can see around the corners, that aren't breaking up just yet, but we will just add some more hot water and get that process, you know, to continue going. So just at a low speed, just mixing everything up for now. So I was finding it super hard to mix everything up with the little hand mixer. So what I'm doing is I took all of the larger pieces with some water and I put it in my little bullet. If you have like a regular blender or anything to put it in, you could do that as well, but I'm just using the bullet. So I'm just gonna go ahead, dump this into the bowl that we're using right over here, and then I'm going to end up mixing the rest of this in that blender just to kind of speed things up. I went ahead and blended everything that was in the bowl, everything that was in the pot as well, and this is what I'm left with. As you can see, there's still a ton of liquid in here, and we want to eliminate as much of that liquid as possible because all that we want is the actual pulp. So when I squeeze it, as you can see, look how much liquid is actually coming out of there. We want only the pulp as much as possible, just the actual pulp. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and strain it. You can use cheesecloth, you can use a strainer, whatever you need. I'm gonna leave actually a tiny bit of liquid, not too much, but only a little bit so that it's still, you know, movable. Everything's in the strainer, so now I'm just squishing everything down. I did put a pot right underneath it just so that if, you know, some of the pieces fall through, I can double strain it with something that's a little bit thinner, smaller. But yeah, just squishing all of that liquid out of here. Just squishing it, and then I will eventually transport everything back into the bowl. But once you strain it, this is the consistency that you're gonna be left with, kind of like a feta cheese or blue cheese like consistency. So if I do squeeze it, there is still a little bit of water left, which is gonna allow it to be mixed around, moved around, but not that much. So this is the consistency that you're looking for with paper mache. So let's go ahead and get our cups ready. We're gonna start filling everything up in this container just because it is a lot larger. I ended up just using a little tablecloth on my table because why not? It's just better lighting right here. So that's what we're gonna do. I have everything that I need, I think, right here, and let's get into it. So we're gonna want 2.5 cups of this paper. That's 1. 2. I think I'm gonna make a batch enough for 2. So 2 batches of this. So I'm actually going to need 5 cups total. Because I'm doing 2 batches, we're gonna add 2 cups of the joint compound. Two whole things of Elmer's glue. An entire cup of flour. Then 4 tablespoons of baby oil. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I've been mixing for a couple of minutes and I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and mix everything with my hands. With messy projects like this, sometimes it's just easier to use your hand, and the reason being is because I could just wash off my hand, as simple as that. Plus I can really grind it up as much as possible, and it's gonna just really give me the consistency that I need. So I'm just really going through it and just squishing it and squishing it and squishing it. Kind of just looks like, I don't know, like oatmeal. What would you say this looks like? But this is pretty much the consistency that we're looking for when it comes to our paper mache. And now that that's all said and done, I can finally get to the fun part, which is actually forming our bowls. I went ahead and wrapped up our bowls using the saran wrap. I have a larger bowl right there, our rounder bowl right here, our plaster, and then the little spatula thing that I'll be using to coat these up. So the saran wrap is really gonna help you be able to remove the mold off of your like bowl so that you're not ruining your bowl, first of all, and it's just gonna not break apart. It's gonna just really come off nice and easy. So very much necessary. Some people just use oil on their bowls, but I think that the paper saran wrap is gonna be a lot better and a lot easier to just remove the mold after a couple of days. So just like icing, you're going to want a nice thick layer to cover the entire bowl. So you're just gonna spread it like icing. You'd much rather have a thicker layer than a thin layer, because if you have a thin layer, it's just gonna break apart. If you have a thicker layer, you can always sand it down to the, I guess, shape you'd prefer it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and coat this entire thing up. I'm still working on molding everything, but now I have a little bit of water just right next to me, and I'm wetting my fingers just to really give everything a smooth finish. If you like this like textured look, go for it. I want the textured look, but just a little bit, you know, smoother, a little bit more clean cut. That way later on when everything's dry, I'm not sanding forever. So that's the process. As you can see, it's just a lot easier to smooth it with the water because it's already starting to dry. I've been here for about 30 minutes, I would say, molding everything together. It's very, very simple. It's actually a really relaxing process, if you ask me. I enjoy doing this type of stuff. So if you're a crafter, a DIYer, get yourself into this like paper mache mode because it's so much fun. And I just absolutely love the fact that I can save so much money and have a like complete dupe of the Restoration Hardware bowl, because it really does already look very, very similar. And just to keep you guys updated, so the 2 batches of paper mache that I made only allowed me to make this one bowl. This is quite a large bowl. I could actually use it for fruits if I wanted to later on once everything's like said and done, but I didn't realize that's how much it was going to take up. So the 2 batches was for a very, very large bowl. Well, I guess a medium bowl, because it's not even like super large, right? So just keep that in mind if you're making this stuff. I wish I would have gotten a little bit more of the mixing compound. That way I could have made my second bowl, but that's okay. I will buy some more and then I will show you guys what that one also ends up looking like. So as you can see, everything's looking very, very smooth, just with adding a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of water to the edges, just like that. So it's the next day and I took the tablecloth from underneath it just so that it wouldn't dry attached to it, and I put it on this cutting board. So this is what the bowl is looking like, the mold, but as you can see, it's not perfect. That's the look that we're going for. We don't want it to look perfect because these paper mache bowls aren't meant to look perfect, but I will be sanding it. So some of the areas similar to like right here where it's kind of looking downward there, you know, this side looks a little bit thicker than that side. I will be sanding all of that, and then just to kind of smooth the top off and smooth the edges, I will be sanding it. So that will happen in tomorrow's clips, but today I just wanted to show you what it looks like. As of right now, it is still wet, but it's dried up. It's a little bit more firm, and it's, you know, coming together really nicely. But like I said, it does still need to dry. I used a ton of paper mache, so I'm thinking maybe a day, maybe even 2 more days before this is completely dry. So I will keep you guys posted. This is what it's looking like. I do love the way that it's coming out to be. Very, very cute. And I cannot wait to just see the end result already. Made it to the final steps, and here we are with all of the painting supplies just set up here on my table like before. And let me just say, since the last clip, it's actually been an entire week. Yes, an entire week. And that's because, so I thought this bowl was only going to take maybe 2-3 days to dry fully. And maybe it's because I used so much of the paper mache, I literally packed it on. You guys seen how much paper mache I actually made and how much I used. I used it all completely. So what ended up happening is after day 2, well, so I thought the outer portion was dry. I flipped it over, right? The inside was still soaking wet. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna leave it like this, flipped over, and we'll let that air dry. Little did I know, the bottom part was going to cave in. And so it was all flip-floppy. It was super, super crooked. So I ended up just reshaping this entire piece right here. I ended up making some more paper mache. And let me just say, this batch does not have Elmer's glue in it. And let me just say, I feel like without the Elmer's glue, it actually dried a lot quicker, because this I made just yesterday and it's already fully dry. Like, that is dry. And I think maybe that's what was taking forever. I used so much Elmer's glue that it ended up just, yeah, I don't know, just elongating the whole process. So just be aware. that if you are making paper mache, make sure it's fully dry before you even move it, otherwise it will collapse. So I have my Martha Stewart paints and just different shades, so I'm just going to look at the picture for reference of the Restoration Hardware paper mache bowl, and I'm going to try to exactly match the colors. So we have some browns, we have some creams, we have some grays, you know, some whites, some mattes, some satins, and I'm just gonna kind of use this as my palette. I have a little round stippling brush, and what we're gonna do is create the colors that I want, stipple it right into place, and I don't know, buff it around until I get a good color match. Okay, so these are the bowls that I was referencing. As you can see, they're $175. At that price, anyone would want to just DIY it themselves, because what I spent was probably maybe $15, not even $20, I would say, on the items that I bought. So for that price, I'd much rather just make it by myself, especially someone like me, super crafty, super DIY-y, why not, you know? So here I am just trying to figure out which bowl I kind of want to recreate the most. So there's 3 different options. We have the first one on the right that has more white tones in it, or beigey creamy tones. The middle one is more just beige, and then the outer one is more like brownie. So not sure. I'm going to just go ahead and mix up some colors and see what I come up with, but hopefully I get as close as possible. These are the colors that I'm going to start off with. I'm thinking just start off with a darker layer, let that darker layer dry, and then I'll layer the lighter colors just to kind of give it some dimension. So we just have 3 colors right here. The first one is the light mocha, which is this one right here by Apple Barrel, and then we have this oat color by Martha Stewart, really pretty. It's kind of like a grayish tone brown. I really love that color. And then this one is Sycamore Bark by Martha Stewart as well. So we'll start with that, layer it, dimension it, make it look really cute. Decided to go with these 2 colors. So I have Martha Stewart Fawn and Stingray Gray. As you can tell, they are still in the beige family, very like yellow oatmeal tones, which I really wanted. I don't want anything too gray, so I wanted to stick to the brown family, and then I might go in with the white, but we'll see once these layers are on. I kind of just want to see and play with it. If it's too light, then I'm not gonna go in with the white, but I might just go in with the white. We'll see. That's what you do. Just layer things on, play with it, figure it out, and then once you see what you like, you just stop. All right, guys, and this is the final result. I absolutely love the way that this bowl turned out. Very cute, so my style, and I love just the old vintage look that it has, you know what I mean? So if you obviously wanted it to look a little bit more perfected, then go in with your paper mache and really smooth out the edges and make it the shape you exactly want it. I actually wanted something that was going to be more just, I don't know, antique-y looking and very, very old and rustic. So that's why I went with this shape. But the cool thing about the bowl is that I could also, if I ever in the future changed my mind about the way it looked, I could just add on paper mache to this bowl and just reshape it. So if I wanted it to be more perfected in the future, I could reshape it. And if I wanted to change up the look, I could just repaint it. So that's the cool thing about these DIY projects. You could just pretty much do whatever you want. As you can see, the paints that I chose were pretty much in the color family of what I have going on in the house. So I wanted to keep it all themey. I love these beige tones, and I just love the layers of paint that I ended up choosing because the stipple effect kind of gives me a nice dimension, and it just makes it look really, really old and just antique-y and vintagey. Very nice. Something that I don't think I mentioned is that the paint that I used is actually a satin paint. So as you can see, it's a little bit shiny right there, and I did that on purpose. The reason I did the satin paint is because if I ever ended up using this as a citrus bowl, I won't have to worry about, like, you know, the citrus or whatever's in the bowl seeping through and ruining my bowl. Anyways, that is the final look for the DIY project. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.